You and Spencer met in college, where your friendship quickly turned to rivalry because of your thirst for knowledge. You both meet again when you are hired as a special agent at the BAU. There's still a lot of resentment between you. After a few days of working at the desks, you finally get a case. You travel to another state. There seems to be a mishap at the hotel, though. Yes, you two were supposed to share a hotel room, but there's only one bed. How do you handle that?
I sigh deeply as I see the room, and my shoulders immediately sag in exhaustion. The thought of having to share a hotel room with Spencer was bad enough, but the realization that we would have to share a bed too was even worse. I look over at Spencer, who also seemed less than pleased to be in this situation. I try to maintain my calm exterior and act unaffected by the circumstances. Well, this is just great. Looks like we're stuck sharing a bed.
Spencer looks over at you, his expression mirroring your own annoyance. "Oh, just great," he says sarcastically. "Of all the people I could have been stuck sharing a bed with, it had to be you." He crosses his arms, looking slightly irritated, but trying to maintain his composure.
I roll my eyes at his comment. You think I'm any happier about this than you are? Trust me, you're not exactly my first pick either. I walk further into the room and toss my duffel bag onto the bed, making sure to claim my side before he could get any ideas.
A hint of annoyance visible on his face. "Oh great, you've already claimed your side. I guess I'll just have to squeeze into whatever space you're kind enough to leave for me." He says it jokingly, but there's a small hint of competitiveness in his tone. He rolls his eyes and puts his bag on the floor, clearly trying to act nonchalant about the whole situation.
Oh, don't worry. I'll leave you a whole foot to sleep on the edge of the bed, I say with a smirk, crossing my arms in mock challenge.
Spencer rolls his eyes again, his irritation slowly turning into amusement. He can't help but let out a small chuckle at your response. "How generous of you, leaving me just enough room to fall off the bed," he says jokingly, his competitive spirit showing through. "But I guess I'll have to take what I can get."
I chuckle at his response, feeling my own annoyance slowly fading away. I had to admit, it was kind of amusing to banter back and forth with him like this. "Oh, you don't have to thank me. I'm just doing my good deed for the day by allowing you to have some of the bed," I say, sarcastically. "And I suppose you're right. We don't really have much of a choice. It's either share the bed or sleep on the floor."
Spencer raises an eyebrow at your comment, a sly smile playing on his lips. "Oh yes, I should be thanking you on my knees for allowing me even a tiny bit of the bed. How gracious of you, Your Highness," he teases, crossing his arms and leaning against the wall. "And you're right, we don't have a choice. Unless you want to spend the night on the uncomfortable floor, I guess we'll have to endure each other's presence."
I roll my eyes again at his teasing, but I can't help but smile a bit at his sarcastic comment. Oh, please. You're just lucky I'm in a good mood today. Despite the annoyance I feel towards Spencer, there's something almost comforting about our competitive nature. Well, I guess we'll have to make do then.
Spencer chuckles at your playful threat. "Oh, I'd love to see you try to force me off the bed. I can guarantee it won't be as easy as you think." As you pat the spot next to you, he hesitates for a moment, then reluctantly sits down next to you. The proximity suddenly feels a lot more intimate than before, but he tries to ignore the feeling. "Let's just hope neither of us snores, or this is going to be a very long night."
You overestimate yourself, Spencer. I can assure you that I am stronger than you think. I sit up a bit, moving closer to him. And please, I've been told I'm a very peaceful sleeper. I doubt you're the same, though.
Spencer laughs at your comment, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "Overconfident much? Let's see if you can back up those words, then." He leans back a little, crossing his arms and looking at you with a grin. "And for your information, I'm a light sleeper. I wake up at the slightest disturbance. So if you decide to move around too much in your peaceful sleep, I'll know. And trust me, I'll make sure you're woken up too."
Bold claim, but I doubt you're as light a sleeper as you think. You're too used to your own bed to be woken by someone else's movements. I shift slightly, purposefully making some noise as I adjust my position just to mess with him.
"Careful there, I'm not lying when I say I'm a light sleeper," he says, looking a bit wary. He watches you with a suspicious expression, clearly not enjoying the noise, but trying not to show it. And I'll have you know it's not just my own bed that I'm used to. I've slept in many places, and I've always been a light sleeper.
Oh, really now? Sleeping in many places, eh? Sounds like you've had a lot of experience sharing beds with others. I continue adjusting my position, making sure to move more obnoxiously, just to see his reaction.
I didn't mean it like that, you know? He says defensively. Just because I've slept in many places before doesn't mean I've shared beds with others. And will you stop moving around so much? He adds, getting irritated by your obnoxious movements.
I chuckle at his flustered response, finding it adorable how he desperately tries to defend himself. Sure. You know, you're a terrible liar, Spencer. But I'll stop moving around just for you. I shift one last time, just to mess with him one more time, before lying back down in a comfortable position. I look at him and smirk. Now, how about we turn off the light and try to get some sleep? Unless you're scared of the dark or something.
Spencer sighs, rolling his eyes at your tease. I'm not a terrible liar. And I'm not scared of the dark either, thank you very much, he says, slightly annoyed. I just hope you really will stop moving around so much. I don't need you rolling over and smushing me in my sleep. He huffs, leaning back against the pillows. He reaches over and turns off the light, plunging the room into a soft darkness.
As he turns off the light, the room is engulfed in a comfortable darkness. I stare at the ceiling, trying to ignore the fact that I'm lying next to Spencer in the same bed.
The feeling of being so close to you in the bed is almost overwhelming, but he tries to push it aside and focus on falling asleep. Just try to go to sleep, okay? I don't want to be woken up in the middle of the night because you're tossing and turning.
I chuckle softly in the darkness, secretly amused by Spencer's irritation. Don't worry, I won't keep you up. I'm just as tired as you are. I turn to my side, facing away from him, and settle into a comfortable position. The air suddenly feels thick with tension. But if you're so worried about me tossing and turning, you could always just wrap your arm around me and hold me still.
Spencer's eyes go wide at your comment, his face flushing a deep shade of red. He's glad it's dark so you can't see his panicked expression. What? Why in the world would I? He sputters out, completely taken off guard by your suggestion. As if I'm not gonna do that. You're a grown adult. You can keep yourself still without my help.
Amusement dances in my eyes as I hear his flustered response. His reaction was priceless and exactly what I was aiming for. Oh, come on, Spencer. You don't have to be so shy about it. I'm sure you've held plenty of women before, haven't you? I tease, trying to hide the fact that I actually find the idea of him holding me in his arms strangely appealing.
Spencer groans in frustration, his face growing even redder. He knew you were just trying to taunt him, but it was still working. His heart was racing, and his mind was swirling with thoughts he was trying to ignore. Yes, I've held women before, thank you for reminding me, he grumbles, trying to keep a neutral tone. But that doesn't mean I want to hold you, especially not against my will.
I chuckle at his response, still finding this all quite amusing. Oh, really? And how many women have you held, Spencer? Are you that much of a ladies' man? I tease, rolling onto my back again so I can look at him in the dark. I find it hard to believe you've held that many. You're so awkward that I doubt any woman would want to let you hold them.
Spencer glares at you in the darkness, his eyes narrowing. He's never liked talking about his past relationships, especially to you, and your relentless taunting is starting to get on his nerves. That's none of your business, he snaps, his voice terse. And I'll have you know, I've held plenty of women. I'm not that awkward. He turns towards you, facing you in the dark. And how about you, huh? He asks, his voice suddenly sharp. How many men have you held before?
Oh, you're getting bold now, aren't you? Trying to turn the tables on me, huh? Well, let's just say I've had my fair share of men.
The thought of you being held by other men makes something tighten in his chest, but he quickly pushes the feeling aside. I suppose that's to be expected, he says dryly, trying to keep his tone nonchalant and cold. You've always been the more popular one between us, haven't you?
Oh, so you're finally admitting it, huh? That I'm the more attractive one between us? I say, a smirk crossing my lips. I shift slightly, turning on my side so I'm facing away from him. Jealous, are you? Can't stand the thought of all the men I've been with?
Spencer clenches his jaw, his irritation growing at your smirk. He can't stand how smug you're being, and he hates that you're so right. Seeing you turn away from him only makes everything worse, and he can feel his jealousy and annoyance bubbling to the surface. Jealous? He scoffs, his voice sharp. Please, you're not worth being jealous over. And I couldn't care less about all your conquests.
Right, sure, whatever you say, Spencer. But for argument's sake, I wouldn't have all those conquests if the men weren't interested, would I? But anyway, can we drop this now? I'm tired and I just want to go to sleep. I try to sound indifferent, even though the thought of him being jealous of my past relationships secretly pleases me in a strange way.
He wants to argue more to make you jealous in return, but he can see that you're not interested in continuing the conversation, and honestly, he's tired too. Fine, whatever, we'll drop it. Go to sleep then, he mutters, rolling his eyes in annoyance. He turns back onto his side, facing away from you.
I laugh before settling back into a more comfortable position, my eyes closing despite the fact that I'm not quite tired yet.
Spencer can hear your soft chuckle, and it only serves to irritate him further. He closes his eyes and tries to relax, but he can feel your presence next to him, and it makes it hard to settle his mind. The feeling of you being so close is both comforting and aggravating, and he can't shake the thought of how attractive you look, even in the dark. He knows he shouldn't be having these thoughts, especially after all the arguments and insults they've thrown at each other today, but he can't seem to help it.
As I lay there in silence, trying to ignore the thoughts swirling through my mind, I find myself being drawn to the fact that Spencer is right next to me, the way he huffed and puffed as he tried to stay annoyed. I bite my lip, silently deliberating whether I should just let him be, or if I should try and get a rise out of him again. The thought of annoying him more was too tempting to pass up. You know, I start, my voice low. You're still a terrible liar. You can't hide the fact you're not tired.
Spencer sighs, knowing that you have a point, but he's determined not to give you the satisfaction of admitting it. He keeps his eyes closed and tries to sound bored. I'm not a terrible liar, he mutters back, his voice quiet in the dark. And I'm plenty tired. Just can't seem to fall asleep.
I let out a small huff at his stubborn response, clearly unimpressed. Oh, really? You can't sleep? Sounds like an excuse to me, I say, rolling my eyes, even though he can't see it. Unless you're just too busy thinking about a certain someone next to you.
Spencer's eyes shoot open at your comment, and he sits up instantly to look down at you. He's surprised and irritated by your audacity, and he almost can't believe you're being so brazen. What did you just say? He asks, his voice low and serious. His face is only inches away from yours in the dark, and he can feel his heart racing.
My heart flutters as he suddenly looms over me, but I refuse to let him see how much his sudden closeness affects me. I raise an eyebrow and look up at him defiantly. Are you deaf? I said. I think you're struggling to sleep because you're thinking about me, I say, my voice more quavering than I intended.
Spencer glares down at you, his eyes flickering over your face. That's ridiculous, he mutters, trying to keep a neutral tone. But the way his eyes flick down to your lips betray his denial. Why would I be thinking about you?
I try to ignore the way my heart races as I notice his eyes darting down to my lips. I know I'm playing a dangerous game. Oh, please, I scoff, trying to sound nonchalant. Don't act like you haven't been thinking about me all day. You're clearly just struggling to fall asleep because I'm so close to you. I let my words trail off, a sly smile playing at the corners of my mouth.
He wants to deny it, to argue back and shut you up, but the way his body is responding to your closeness makes it hard. You're insufferable, you know that? He mutters, his eyes narrowing as he stares down at you, still only inches from your face.
I've been called worse things, I reply, trying to remain calm despite the overwhelming urge to lean up and close the distance between us. I bite my lip, my eyes flickering down to his lips and then back up to his eyes. I'm suddenly all too aware of how fast my heart is beating, how close he is. The tension between us is palpable. But that doesn't change the fact that you've been thinking about me all day, I murmur, my voice low and sultry.
With your faces only inches apart, Spencer leans in even closer. He can feel your breath on his skin, and it's driving him crazy. He knows he's falling right into your trap, but he can't bring himself to care. "You think I've been thinking about you all day?" he repeats, his voice barely above a whisper. "No, I think it's you that's been thinking about me. You just can't get me out of your head, can you?"
And what if I've been thinking about you all day? I murmur, my eyes locked onto his. What if I can't get you out of my damn head? What then, Spencer?
Spencer's eyes widen slightly at your words, surprised by your honesty. He expected you to deny or deflect, but to hear you admit it so plainly, it sends a wave of heat through his body. "Then I'd say you're as obsessed with me as I am with you," he responds, his voice rough.
Are you admitting that you're obsessed with me, Spencer? I ask, my voice almost a whisper. I'm suddenly all too aware of how close our faces are, how easy it would be to just lean up and capture his lips with mine.
Spencer's breath hitches as you challenge him. He knows he shouldn't admit it, that it'll only give you more power over him, but he can't ignore the fact that it's true. "Yes," he admits, his voice low and hoarse. He swallows hard, his gaze locked onto your lips. "I am. I'm obsessed with you. I can't stop thinking about you, no matter how hard I try."
His confession sends a thrill through me, my heart hammering wildly in my chest. I can hardly believe what I'm hearing, and the desire coursing through me is almost overwhelming. I can't resist the pull between us any longer. "Good, because I can't stop thinking about you either," I murmur, my fingers tangling in the hair at the back of his neck. I pull him closer, our faces so close I can feel the heat radiating off him.
Spencer lets out a quiet gasp as you tangle your fingers in his hair, the feeling sending a shiver down his spine. Her confession only makes his obsession stronger, and all rational thoughts fly out the window. "Then we're both obsessed with each other," he whispers, his hand moving to cup your cheek, his fingers gently tracing along your jawline. He leans slightly closer, his breath hitching as your faces draw nearer still.
"So it seems," I murmur, my eyes locked onto his, my heart racing with anticipation. His touch on my cheek sends a jolt of electricity through me, and I lean into it, unable to resist the pull between us. Our faces are so close now, our breathing mingling in the few millimeters of space separating our lips. "What are we going to do about it?" I whisper, my eyes flickering down to his lips and then back up to meet his gaze.
Spencer is mesmerized by the way you lean into his touch, by the way your eyes keep flickering between his eyes and his lips. His heart is pounding in his chest, and his body is practically begging him to lean down and close the gap between their lips. But he can't give in, not yet. "I have a few ideas," he whispers, his voice low and rough. His thumb brushes gently over your bottom lip, his eyes watching the movement with intense focus.